In this episode, we're going to look at how to do basic switch and end device configuration. I'll show you how to do it and have a discussion of the concepts along the way. As a recently hired LAN technician, your network manager has asked you to demonstrate your ability to configure a small local area network. Your tasks include configuring initial settings on 2 switches using the Cisco IOS and configuring IP address parameters on host devices to provide end-to-end connectivity. You are to use 2 switches and 2 host PCs on a cabled and powered network. We'll be discussing configuring host names and IP addresses on 2 Cisco Internetworking Operating System switches using the command line interface, using Cisco's iOS command to specify or limit access to the device configuration, using iOS commands to save the running configuration, configure 2 host devices with IP addresses, and verify connectivity between the 2 PCs and devices. Greetings to all my tech heads out there in the KevTechify Nation, and if you're new here, welcome. This episode is part of my series on practical configuration examples for the CCNA. I'm Kevin here at KevTechify. Let's get this adventure started. Basic switch and end device configuration. Here's my addressing table I have open up on the right. On the left side is my working area. Now this one's a little bit different. I actually have the packet tracer activity window up here instead of the Word document. There aren't any questions to answer, but you'll see why here in a second, why I have this up as we work through this. So we have the objectives: host names, IP addresses, specify or limit access to the device, adding security, save the running config, configure the 2 host devices, PCs with addresses, verify connectivity, make sure that we can go through there. Gives you a scenario. Okay, before we get started with this lab, I do want to show you something about this lab. Some labs are built in, so there's different versions of that. Now, when I load in here, notice the version. If we look at the logical topology on the left side, it's got student 1, and it goes up and down, sort of like a W missing one end, a little zigzag pattern. If we notice the IP addresses over here, 172.16.5. Now, if I reset the activity, and it's going to say we're going to lose all unsaved changes, we are going to come up with a different configuration, and we're going to come up with different IP addresses. So every time you press reset, you're going to get some different possibilities. So if you're looking at your lab and it's not what you're seeing is not what I have on my screen, it's just because it's a different version of it. You're newly hired at a company. You have to go in and you have to set up a small network. And what they're going to have you do is go in and configure, get it up and running, and then verify that your 2 switches and your 2 hosts are working. Instruction: configure the devices to fill the requirements below. And once again, this is what I told you. This is where you should have your notes, either written in a tablet or in a document on your computer that you can go back and easily reference. Because right now, it's going to say use a console connection to access each switch. Well, if you remember back, that was back in the first packet tracer lab here in episode 2. So we have to set that up. Use a console connection. That's how we go down here. We click the red lightning bolt in the bottom left corner. We get this blue line here. If we pause there a second. If we pause there a second, the word console should come up. Click one device, RS-232, into that switch. Where do we want to connect into? We want to connect into the console. We want to do another connection that way from our RS-232 into our switch, which is our console connection. There we have this out-of-band connection that allows us to go on and do that. Name our switches. Now, if we click on our switches, we're going to say the configuration's locked. Oh no, we can't get into CLI. But remember, we have those console lines there. What we can do is click on student 1 PC. We can go into, make this a little bit wider, go into the desktop. And then here we have the terminal emulation program. That allows us to use that console out-of-band connection to connect up. We take our default numbers there, we connect in, and here we are. It says press return to get started. Good sign saying there's no configuration in there. Go ahead, hit enter. There we are. We are in a blank switch. Now we have to go through and look at what we're setting up here. Name, we have to name it Class A or Class B switches. So in order to do that, what we have to do is we have to go from user exec mode into privilege. That is the command enable. Notice our command prompt changed from the greater than sign to the pound sign. Now we have to change our name of our device, we have to go into the global configuration mode. In order to do that, it's config T, hit enter. Once again, notice our prompts are changed again. We are entering configuration command. Now it says switch, and in the brackets it has the word configuration. So we're in this global configuration mode. We have to change our device name. Once again, how to do that? That was host name space, and then the host name they want. Once again, host names are case sensitive. Is C capitalized, then lowercase LASS-A, and hit enter, and our name is changed right away. Use the 8UB capital RU password for all lines. And once again, we have two lines. We have the console connection and our terminal lines. We're in global configuration mode. In order to do that, it was line and then con 0. That gets us into configuration or configuring our console ones. So we set the password as PASSWORD. That's our first command. And then we are looking at 8UB capital R lowercase u. That sets our password. Oh, I had a typo in there. Up arrow, go back a little, delete that character, hit enter, set our password. What else do we have to do? Well, we have to tell it to use it during the login process. The word login right there, hit enter, that is set. And now it said for all lines. We did the line con 0. Now we have to do the virtual terminal, the telnet SSH connection. Now you don't have to back out. You can just change right into that. So instead of typing exit and then line VT 0 to 15, we can just type line VTY 0 space 15 because we want to cover all possible ways to get into our device. And notice it didn't give us any feedback that we changed. We're still configuring a line. But remember, no news is good news with Cisco. It didn't give us an error, so it's saying you're in there. Now we need to set up our password again. Up arrow is our friend. Remember I told you can use up arrow, so we don't have to retype that. Hit enter, up arrow a couple times to get to the login. At that point in time, we can type exit. Use C9WRE as the secret password. And once again, you have to do this in global configuration mode. So enable secret capital C 9 W lowercase r capital E as our password. There we go. Encrypt all passwords. Remember what that was? That was a service command because we're running it as a service on our device. Service, and then password. Instead of typing it all, I just usually hit tab at this point in time. So now I encrypted that. Right now, I'm going to have you stop. Now, if we look at the right side in this packet tracer activity window, down here on the bottom, some activities have built-in scoring automatically for you. If we look over here, it says completion. We are at 6% complete of everything we need to do. Well, what do we know? If we go down here and click on check results, it closed our activity window, but then it popped up this new packet tracer window. Here it gives your overall feedback, what you're doing, but then this is the assessment item. This is what you're interested in. If you click the assessment item, this tells you what you're being scored on and what you've completed and what you haven't. So right now, your console line, we've set the password, we did an enable secret, we did the host name. We didn't do the banner message of the day. I quit that a little bit early just so we could see this. We didn't do anything with the ports and VLANs in here. We didn't do anything with our startup config. So there's stuff we have to do. But as you're working through this, this is a way to make sure you're getting there. And ultimately, your goal is to be 100% complete. So I'm going to go ahead, click the X here, and what it's going to do is it's going to open up the activity window again. I'm just going to still on the right half of my screen. Completion is 6%. We did a couple things, but there's still quite a few things we have to do. So we were encrypt all clear passwords. We did the password service encryption, configure an appropriate message of the day banner. So getting back in here, that was banner MOTD for message of the day. Use an ampersand sign, authorized access only, exclamation mark, @ sign, close it. That gives us our banner message of the day. If we go back and notice, we're now up to 8% complete. We are, if we do check results underneath assessment items, notice our banner message of the day is now checked. So you can see how this is doing. So I'm going to close this out, make it half of the window again. I hope you're liking this episode on practical configuration examples. Leave a comment on what you think about these configuration examples. If you still have a question or comment, please let me know below. You can also visit my website at KevTechify.com for all of my details and how to get these episodes in video and podcast form. So we did configure appropriate message of the day, configure addressing for all devices according to the table. So we are connected into switch 2. This is where we have to go in and interface VLAN 1 and set that IP address up there. So we're in global configuration mode. We need to go into the interface. So it's interface VLAN 1. We need to set the IP address. Once again, the command starts with IP. Then what we're doing in there is we're setting an address. The address for switch 1, once again, if we look up here in the addressing table, is 10.10.10.100. The 10.10.10.100. Go ahead and enter. Oh no, it's an incomplete command. I forgot what to do. Up arrow retypes that command, put a space and a question mark in there, looking for the subnet mask. So we go ahead and put that subnet mask in there from our addressing table, 255.255.255.0. The command is complete. And if we look down here in the bottom right corner, our completion is at 24%. So we're getting there. Configure addressing for all devices. Since we're working on Class A switch, we have that. Save our configs. Once again, how do we do that? That was the copy run start, but we don't do it while we're in the interface. So we need to exit out and get into global configuration mode. And it wasn't in global configuration mode either. It was in privilege exec mode. So exit out one more time. Hit enter a couple times to give us a clean working area. And then do a copy from our running to our start. Take that. And look at that. We are up to 26%. So I'm going to go ahead and close this. I'm going to go in, configure Class B switch. So I clicked on Student 2 PC, go to the desktop tab, open up the terminal window, take the default settings for bit per second, data bits, parity, stop bits, and flow control. 96.8.1 none. I got that memorized. I've been doing it long enough. If you are looking at getting certified, that may be important to know. Here we are in a blank switch. Enter that in. Enable. Use a console connected in there. Change the device name. Name it Class-B. So global configuration mode. Host name. Once again, tab completion. Capital C LASS dash B. Change my class name. Use 8U for all lines accessed. Now we have to go into line con 0. Enable. Password 8U B capital RU. Set that there. And we have to apply it to the login process too, so make sure you type in login. Now we have to change to our virtual terminals. We don't have to exit out. We could if you wanted to. So line, BTY, and then the range of them. So starting with the first one, which is 0, last one, which is 15. Set our password again to 8UBR. Instead of having to retype that all, I just use the up arrow. Set that password, up arrow a couple times, get me to log in. At that point in time, we have both of our line interfaces configured with a password. I can exit out. Next step here was use C9 as the secret password. So in global configuration mode, enable secret and then that password. So capital C 9 W R capital E. Yes, the W was capitalized. So I set that password. Encrypt all clear passwords. Once again, that's a service. Service password dash encryption. Tab completion is your friend. There we go. Set a banner, appropriate banner message of the day. The command once again was banner MOTD. Use some sort of delimiter. Here we'll use the %. Authorized access only. And you use the same delimiter. I used the %. That sets it in there. So we configured our appropriate message of the day, configuring our addressing. So we need to go into the interface. Once again, the interface we're configuring is VLAN 1. So int VLAN space 1. Set the IP address, IP space address. Get the actual address from their table, 10.10.10.150. And of course, we need the subnet mask. 255, 255, 250, oh, just 3 255s and a 0. There you go. Save your configurations. Copy, run, start. Oh, I'm in the wrong mode again. I'm just going to type N. It'll take me all the way out to privileged exec mode. Hit enter a couple times. Give me a clear working area. Copy, run, start. Is that what we want to name it? If it is, it's the default one. We can just hit enter and it copied it in there. So we saved our configuration. And now look at this. We are at completion of 53%. Just out of curiosity, I'm curious to see what we have done and what we haven't done. Oh, look at that. Looking through here. Oh no. Oh no. What did I not do? I didn't turn my ports on. I need to do that on both switches for my VLAN 1. I need to turn those ports on. Okay, let's get in there quickly and do that. So click on PC Student 1 to get me into Class A. Make this window a little bit wider yet. Terminal. Connect in. There we are, just like we left it. And we need to turn on that interface of VLAN 1. We need to get into global configuration mode because we're already in privileged exec mode. Go into the interface of VLAN 1 and then do a no shutdown. And notice how it goes up and up. If we go and we check our results here, it is now port status is good. Now it's on. We still need to go in and do this for our Class B switch. In our Class B switch, so click on Student 2 PC because that's where we have the connection. We are still logged in. So go into global configuration mode, going into the interface of VLAN 1, and do a no shutdown. Uh-oh, I did it wrong. Instead of typing no, I typed HO, which was short for host. So I need to go in and change the host name back to what it was. Capital C LASS -B. Now we got the right name in there. We need to go back into the interface of VLAN 1. And now we do our no shutdown. And now the VLAN comes up. So sometimes you do have little typos, and it should be fairly easy to recover from that, as you saw right there. Interface VLAN 1 is up. I'm going to exit out, exit out. And of course, we made a configuration change, so we should do a copy, run, start. And as a good practice, I'm going to jump back to student 1, class A, exit out, and do a copy, run, start, just to make sure I save those configurations. Okay, complete. My completion's at 64%. Last thing I have to do is verify connectivity between devices. Well, let's check my results here. Going in, if we notice, all the network components, switch class A is all configured correctly, class B is all configured correctly. Now, it's not a good idea to rely on just this to configure, because sometimes you may have to configure something else to get the green check mark here. It may be a 2 or 3 step process. And so just because it says, okay, you got to configure an IP address, there may be a couple steps before that you have to go in and configure. So just be aware of that. But right now, I need to go in and configure my student PCs. I need to configure the IP addresses of the subnet mask on them. So I click on student 1 PC. I'll close this terminal window. I will look at the IP configuration window here. We're going to statically program it. Student 1 PC has an IP address of 10.10.10.4 with a subnet mask of, oh, there, it took a guess. The default subnet mask is 255.0.0.0, but here we're using something a little bit different. Here we are using 255.255.255.0, 3255. So we do need to go in and retype this in here. Make sure it is what the lab says. Close that out, close out student 1 PC, open up student 2 PC, close the terminal window, open up IP configuration, set in our IP address 10.10.10.5, tab down to the next field. Once again, we have to add 3255, so 255.255.255.0. Close that out, close that out. Okay, last thing we have to do is verify our connectivity between devices. So I'm going to jump onto student 1 here, PC. I'm going to open it up and open up the command prompt, because that's where we're going to ping from. That's where we're going to ping from. And as we look at our diagram here, we're going from student 1 and we're going to ping all our devices. So let's start with the closest device. So let's ping class A and see if that works. So to ping it is the command ping space and then the password of, the IP address of class A, which is 10.10.10.0. The 10.10.10. Not 0, but .100. Sorry about that. So the IP address of the class A switch is 10.10.10.100. Go ahead. We're going to ping it. And, it's not working. But the last 3 did, the first one didn't. Maybe it just needed to learn it. So let's try it one more time. I'm going to go ahead and hit the up arrow. I'm going to put that exact command in there again. Hit enter. And look at that. It right away, first time there, all 4 times it sent something, it received it, 0% loss. So the first time I pinged it, it took that first ping, it had to learn how to get there. Once we learned it, it works flawlessly. And so we ping from from student 1 to class A switch. Let's ping from student 1 PC to class B switch. Class B switch, that IP address is right here. So the command ping and then the IP address of 10.10.10. Oops. A typo in there. 10.150. And look at that. It learned where the class B switch was already. It worked 4 times, 100% it worked. And then the last thing we have to do on this one is ping from student 1 PC down to student 2 PC. And so from going from student 1 to student 2, we need the IP address of student 2. There we go. So ping the IP address of student 2 PC, which is 10.10.10.5. Pinging it. It knew it because we did some communication on there, 100% successful. So we were able to ping all of our devices on our network at 100% success. That worked. Now let's check the results down here. So in the in the packet tracer activity window, I'm going to go ahead and click check results. Underneath assessment items, notice we have all green check marks, no red X's, so that's a good thing. And then over here, our score is 100 out of 100. Our item count is 24 out of 24. These are the items over here on the left. It gave us a little breakdown on where they are or what category they fall into. And then they have connectivity tests. If you look up here on the tabs, overall feedback, it says, congratulations, you've completed this. Good job. Here's the assessment. That was episode 2, Packet Tracer Lab 2.9.1, basic switch and end device configuration. It was my pleasure to provide you with this wonderful episode on configuration examples. If you like this episode and you got value out of it, please click that like button, give a 5-star rating, leave a comment. This all helps me bring you more great content. Please take a minute to subscribe to my channel. All my socials and contact information are on my website, KevTechify.com. There you can find out how to get all these episodes in video and podcast form. Thank you so much for watching this episode of my series on practical configuration examples for the CCNA. I've created 4 wonderful playlists for you on the CCNA. These episodes, I go through all the concepts that Cisco calls out for the CCNA. Once again, I'm Kevin. This is KevTechify. I'll see you next time for another great adventure.